All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is April 12th. We have two NBA play-in games to jump into today. We're going to jump into each game. I'll give you my lean on the spread, and I'll give you my lean on the total. But as you guys should know, if you're tuning into most videos, all my final plays will be in the pinned comment. Last night, we're coming off a 1-0 night. We will take the cash. We just had one play, a 6-point teaser. Hawks plus 11, and then Lakers -2. I feel great about that teaser. Obviously, the Hawks win the game outright as underdogs, but the Lakers win the game by 6 in OT. So their line, I think they closed at Lakers -8.5. They only won by 6, so I'm really glad that we did end up teasing that down. And I do want to say, guys, with play-in games or even playoff series, it's not really the time to start forcing things. You don't need to chase or, have a million plays on the night. Let's really try and have a profitable postseason here, especially with these play-in tournaments. You know what I mean? There's only 2 games, and it's technically, I'm not throwing any shots, it's technically the bottom of the barrel of the potential playoff teams. So you don't want to go out there and force anything. But yeah, guys, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and let's like the video as well. You guys have been crushing the like button as of late. Let's go ahead and do it again. Act like that like button is a fast break, wide open rim, right? And you have the ball, and for once in your life, you're able to windmill dunk. Go and do that on the like button. Show me what you would do with that wide open, fast break, open lane, 7-foot hoop, and windmill dunk it, all right? Guys, go ahead and do that and hit that subscribe button as well. We also have new merch. I talked about it yesterday. This is another colorway. We got the Fade Me backboard tee right now. It's kind of like that rustic material, very, very comfortable, little loose, oversized, and we have the faded design there as well. But let's go ahead and jump into the first game on today's slate. We have Toronto hosting Chicago. Toronto right now 5.5-point favorites. Total is sitting at 214. Last time these two teams played was late February, and Toronto won this game 104-98. They were 4.5-point favorites, and they took the win there. They also played earlier in the year in November, but Chicago won that game 111-97. And then even earlier in November, Toronto won 113-104. Those are their 3 meetings on the season. In their last 10 games here to close the season, Chicago 6-4 against spread, playing really well on the road in their last 6 games, 4-2 against the spread. Toronto 5-4-1 to close the season in their last 10 games here against the spread, and playing decent at home, 3-1-1. And if you even look at like a smaller sample size here, Chicago 4-2 against spread in their last 6 here. I will say I'm on the Chicago side of things. I think it's just a little bit too many points to give, especially if we can consider a potential teaser or something like that, giving Chicago almost 12 points. I don't know if we're going down the teaser route like we did yesterday, but what I will say is 5.5 points seems like a little bit too much to give a team that matches up really well with this Toronto team. So I'm not saying Chicago goes out there and wins this game ultimately, but I do think that, if Toronto were to win, I think it's by 3 or 4 points, that type of thing. So I am going to lean towards Chicago here, plus the 5.5. And then in terms of a total 214, I want to go over because it's so low, but based on what we saw yesterday with those 2 playoff game or play-in games, and those 2 teams, or those 4 teams, 3 of the 4 being a team that I would think put up more points and go over their mark, they really didn't. So I'm going to take sort of that energy and clear showing that these 2 teams are treating, and all these teams are treating these games like absolute must-win playoff games, and kind of locking in and making it hard for the offense. I'm going to lean towards the under. I know it might be a little crazy to lean under 214. Who knows if it becomes a final play? I still have to dig into that a little bit more, so keep an eye on the pinned comment, but I am going to lean towards the under here as well as Chicago. Now, before we get into the second game, I did want to break down, and I appreciate you guys thanking me. You didn't need to thank me, but in yesterday's video, I gave sort of a brief rundown as to what the play-in tournament is for people that might be new to it. So last night's games, the winner of those games move right onto the playoffs, and they are the 7 seed, because those are the 7 and 8 seeds playing, right? So now you have these 2 teams in each conference playing the 9 and the 10 seed here. The winner of this game is going to move on to a second game. The loser is done, kaput. All right, so these are legit sort of one and done type games for these 4 teams tonight. The winner of this game is going to play the Miami Heat or the Timberwolves, the loser of yesterday's game, and that game will determine the 8th seed. So even though yesterday I said it was kind of like a one and done environment, it wasn't. Those teams had a second chance. If you lose tonight's game, the Bulls, Raptors, Thunder, or Pelicans, they are out of the playoffs. So keep that in mind, that there is going to be some like on the line type play. I think the Chicago Bulls are going to kind of lay it all out there. That's why I think this game's going to be a close game. I just can't envision I really can't envision any blowout on either one of these games, if I'm being honest, knowing that these two teams, or these four teams are going to give it everything they have. But yeah, so I'm going to lean the Bulls and the under here. And then let's move on to the second game where we have the Pelicans 5.5 point favorites over the Thunder right now. Thunder on the season 40-42. Pelicans flip that record around 42-40. The total is 227. In their last game here, which was in mid-March, the Thunder won this one 110-96. It was a pick'em game, no spread in that one. And then in mid-February, New Orleans won 103-100. And then a couple days before Christmas, a very close game between the two. New Orleans 128-125. And then way back in November here, their first meeting of the year, New Orleans won 105-101. So a lot of close games this season. In fact, that last game of the year, which obviously that's towards the end of the year, injuries and all that is going to impact things, was the only game that was decided outside of I think the most was 4 points. Prior to that, I think they had 5, 4, and 3 points deciding their games, other than that most recent one here. And then to close the season here, the Rumbling Cover and Thunder, we called them all year long, right? We're 2-8 against spread. Yikes. In their last 6 games on the road, they're 1-5 against spread. New Orleans closed out the season strong, 6-3-1 against spread, 3-1-1 in their last 5 at home. I think that I'm going to take a little bit of the historics here and say these two teams match up pretty toughly against each other. I am going to lean towards the Thunder, another dog here, plus the 5.5 points. Though they didn't finish the season off strong, they did beat Utah outright, and they did beat Memphis outright and covered both those games in which they were favorites. New Orleans, on the other hand, as well as they were playing against the spread, they did lose their last game there against Minnesota. They're 3.5 point dogs. They lose the game by 5. Definitely a tough fought match. Obviously, this one I kind of went back and forth with. It's very early right now, but waking up super early and looking into this game kind of racked my brain a little bit, because I could totally see anyone being like, no man, the Pelicans are the play. And I know we got the Pelicans fan in the comments, and I respect the call if someone likes the Pelicans today. This is one where I do think OKC keeps the game close, but the Pelicans might and probably do win this game outright. But again, 3 of their 4 meetings this season, was determined by 5 or less points, so or 4 or less points, I could say. So I do think that is worth mentioning, and I do think obviously there's been plenty of injuries on either side this season to make things kind of inconsistent. But other than obviously the normal, Zion's been out for forever, and Holmgren and Pacheski and whatnot out for the Thunder, they're gonna have their guys. The Thunder are gonna have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Giddey, Dort. The Pelicans gonna have Ingram and McCollum. So this is gonna be 2 healthy versions of these two teams playing one another, and I do think that it stays close here. In terms of a total, this one I do think is going to be a more high-scoring game, obviously, than yesterday's games that we saw. I think it's probably going to be the highest-scoring game out of the 4 playing games that we've seen thus far, but I am still going to lean towards the under. Something about yesterday showed me what these teams are feeling and what the vibe was, and I know I shouldn't use yesterday's games and judge these two teams. I'm not really trying to say that. I'm trying to say, okay, we're in the playoffs now, if that's what I mean, or if that makes sense to you guys. So 227 with these two teams. I think this one's gonna be a lower game like that than that, so I am gonna stick to the under. And that is all I have for you guys today. A quick video, but hopefully you guys do enjoy that, guys. Let me know in the comments who you're rolling with, and just let me know in the comments, what you're thinking of the NBA play-ins and everything like that. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, peace out.